I'm the proud grandson of West Indians who came here in the 1920s searching for the American dream. Since then, my family's been wrapped in the warm embrace of African Americans whose North American experience began in the United States. Like so many others, we're the beneficiaries of the blood, sweat, and toil of trailblazing daughters and sons of the transatlantic slave trade who were shackled and brought here instead of to the islands like my ancestors. On June 19, 1865, the Union Army suppressed the lingering pocket of Confederate resistance in Galveston, Texas, and announced that the enslaved were free. Since then, all of us who love freedom have celebrated Juneteenth as the official end of American slavery. Even though June 19, 1865 was a day filled with promise, we still have a way to go in building the America we dream of. Too often, we see stark reminders of a society that's unjust and falls short of our promise to treat everyone equally, regardless of who we are or whom we love. There's still work to do. So, as a West Indian grandson, Juneteenth is particularly poignant to me. It's a time to celebrate our wonderful family reunion of Africans in America. It's also a time to recognize how much further there is to go before we can truly celebrate America's promise. But I'm confident we'll get there. Happy Juneteenth.
As the daughter of a father from the heart of the slave trade in the state of South Carolina and a mother from the state of Illinois, my ancestors quite simply built this country. Juneteenth is a reminder that my place in this country has been bought and paid for with the blood, anguish, and dreams, both deferred and denied, of those that came before me. Juneteenth is not a celebration per se for me, but instead it's a reminder that power never cedes easily, wrong looks right to many, and it's always the right time to do what's just and moral. Although far too many look at African Americans and our ancestors inexplicably as somehow less than, Juneteenth is a reminder of the truth. And the truth is simply this. I come from a magnificent people, a proud people, a people that suffered immeasurable loss, but are still standing in our greatness. The strength and determination of my lineage cannot be denied. Juneteenth is a reminder of this.
Hello, I'm a native Brooklynite and a proud graduate of an historically black university, the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. Attending a historically black university provided me with a host of life-changing experiences. One important one was my ability to spend my formative years in Southern Maryland, learning about our nation's history, both the good parts and the bad. My time on campus, where I studied in the Frederick Douglass Library or took a science class in George Washington Carver Hall, gave me a priceless exposure to a world previously unknown. For example, my alma mater is in Princess Anne, Maryland, which has the distinction of being the last city in Maryland to have recorded a lynching. The victim, Mr. George Armwood, who was accused of assault, was arrested, never given a trial, and on October 18, 1933, was brutalized and hung in a downtown square by a local, large, angry mob. This horrific event was not commonly known to many of the students who attended college with me. I was only made aware of it because in my travels in and around town and around campus, I often tapped into the minds of the local African-American elders, particularly those who worked on campus. Some of these local elders and African-American professors on campus provided me with another account of a date in history that I also knew nothing about, the celebration of Juneteenth. They all expressed the importance of the African-American celebration of the delayed date of independence and emancipation from slavery, and the need to educate others about this often untold and unclaimed date in the history of our nation. Winston Churchill famously said that history is written by the victors. Unfortunately, it is often hidden by them as well. One should not have to attend a historically black college or university to learn more about the often untold or unclaimed history of our nation. With annual recognitions and joyous celebrations of Juneteenth across the country, all Americans will have a chance to understand and appreciate the struggles of many at the hands of a few. A struggle that changed the landscape of our country and helped build it into the world leader that it is today.
As a teenager, my family decided to move to Texas. I was anxiously excited because I was returning to my birthplace and the birthplace of Juneteenth. It was established in 1865, and more than 2 years had passed before Texans and other enslaved people were made aware of their freedom. That was cause to celebrate. They were not only celebrating the fact that 2 years had passed and they were just learning of their freedom, they were celebrating the idea of what freedom proposed. The proposal of owning their own land, the possibility of becoming business owners, the possibility of watching their children be children and their elders grow old. They celebrated the possibility of learning to read and to write. And they celebrated the opportunity to pursue that coveted American dream. Today on Juneteenth, we celebrate with family and friends. We celebrate with good food and red soda pop. But most importantly, we celebrate the strength, the courage, and the fortitude of our ancestors to rise up, start fresh, and build bridges for those who would come behind them. I imagine the lyrics of the songwriter James Weldon Johnson must have resonated with my ancestors when they received the news of their freedom. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who by might led us into the light, keep us forever in path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Sing a song full of faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. March on, America. Happy Juneteenth.
Juneteenth commemorates the day that enslaved Africans in Galveston, Texas were read the Emancipation Proclamation, 2.5 years after it was issued by President Abraham Lincoln. Today, awareness and understanding of Juneteenth ranges from people who have had a long history of annual celebrations to people who have recently learned about this important milestone for African Americans. Regardless of our starting point, it is important that we now all acknowledge this important part of American history. Juneteenth is a celebration of heritage and legacy. It is a testament to triumph and perseverance. It is the song of those who fought for freedom, endured hardship, and continue today to strive toward a more perfect union. In many ways, it is a day of reflection and a challenge to service, that the stain of bondage and oppression must never again be repeated or tolerated, that we will all and each strive to close the gap between this country's highest principles and our present reality, that future generations will reap the harvest of today's seeds. As a proud heir to this legacy, I pledge to do my part. I encourage all to read, share literature, perform acts of service, participate in local events, and above all, celebrate. Through commemoration, we will lighten the darkest chapter in this country's history. Hatred, bigotry, discrimination, racism. We must confront and combat all of these evils in word and in deed. The Emancipation Proclamation, the words of 1863, must now inform and inspire the actions of 2021. In all things, our American resolve endures. Decency, service, commitment, generosity, inclusion. All of these will help this country be the shining sum of our parts. Happy Juneteenth, and may this day be the unique reflection of our noblest American ideals.
Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom that many of my ancestors could only dream about. It represents those who came before me that fought for the generations to come. It represents those who died hoping that their children's children would one day live in a free world. It represents my great-grandmother, who was the first generation of our family to be born free. It represents my grandmother, who was one of 15 children born during segregation, who never let her circumstances determine her outcome. It represents me, the first lawyer in my family. I am living what my ancestors could only imagine. My freedom today was bought with the price of my ancestors' lives, and I do not take that lightly. Juneteenth helps me remember that we as a people have come so far, from not being able to vote to voting to elect the first Black president. My hope is that as time goes on, Juneteenth will represent so much more to the generations to come after me. Although the fight is not over and there is still more work to be done, I will never take for granted what was sacrificed for me to be here today. Happy Juneteenth.